May this be truthful, right?
Yes, I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. Okay. All right. We're here with Mr. Jeremiah. So this is the second in our little student interview series. And
Nice.
yeah, so Jeremiah Jenkins, you're an MDiv student in your last semester, on track to be ordained in the Disciples of Christ, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And then do you want to just give like a brief background on yourself beyond that?
Sure, sure. Yeah, so I'm originally from Orlando, Florida. Grew up there. Let's see, I studied religion in my undergrad at a very conservative school, Liberty University. Wanted to go into youth ministry at the time. So sure enough, early 2000s, I was doing some work in some churches in the Orlando area. And then later on segued into, kind of parachurch ministry, nonprofit type stuff. Two of my favorite jobs being working for a jail and prison ministry, and then also working for an organization that helped people get full-time jobs. So yeah, a lot of ecumenical working together type stuff, which was great in both of those roles. And then also, serving populations that I guess you can consider to be, the least of these, in our society. So both of those very cool. And yeah, I decided to start seminary. Gosh, was that January 2017? I moved out to California to do that, thinking that maybe I'll do something, some kind of chaplaincy, and maybe not work in a church. But I've since warmed up to that idea. So so we'll see. I'll pursue ordination and see what doors are open after that.
Yeah. Like, how do you see, maybe what was your initial, call it aversion to working in a church setting, and then
Mhm.
how does that feel different now?
Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh, good question. Yeah, so my initial aversion was one because I worked in churches. I wasn't delusional about like I knew some of the pitfalls. I knew some of the downsides. There's two sides to every coin. A lot of benefits to working in church, and you're still working with humans. So of course there's going to be conflict and politics and power plays and all those sorts of things. Um, but more so than that, it was I struggled with thinking too much about or being too concerned with what other people thought about me. And so for me to like I just watched it, like it didn't matter how much a pastor, for example, would say from the pulpit, "Hey, I'm a human. I'm just like you all." There are still some people, not all, but there's still some people who are going to still put that pastor up on a pedestal, which might sound nice. You might get some better favorable treatment, but then what happens when you screw up? Well, now it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this person did that, and with my own personal internal struggles, I was like, yeah, I don't know if that's a good setup for me. Like that doesn't seem very healthy. So yeah, that was
Yeah,
something that I avoided for a while.
you seem like, I don't know, like all of our interactions, I think one of your best qualities, it seems to me, is your honesty.
Hmm.
And so, like, we mortals are all just that. So anyone who sort of accepts the pedestal is
Hmm.
maybe like you're talking about. It's like you come at risk of actually somewhat being blind to your own, or trying to look the other way at your own faults and mistakes and sins, call it. But
Right.
for you, it's not as though Jeremiah is any more of a sinner than anyone.
Right.
You just seem like more honest and aware of your own life, would you say?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't phrase it that way.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be comfortable phrasing it that way.
sure.
But I do think that uh, again, knowing some of the areas where I'm weak, I've tried to move away, from some of those things. So even something like honesty, some of my commitments to honesty now are because I was dishonest in the past and got to see, how, just that horrible look in a loved one's eyes when they realize that they've been, lied to, or they've been deceived.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. And then, there's downfalls to lying to myself, and choosing, to ignore some of the areas where I'm weak, or even some of my strengths. So yeah. So hopefully I am doing life a little bit differently, and in recognizing, embracing the areas where I'm weak, and trying to make adjustments for that. Hopefully that's what I'm doing.
I remember I had a teacher once who talked about edge practice. So like spiritual in reference to spiritual practice.
Yep.
And like what you make me think of is sort of we have imperfectly, but we have sort of things that we've learned. We have understanding, we have wisdom that's
Mhm.
built up over time from everything from the mistakes we've made ourselves to things we've read.
Right.
So like how do you stay aware of like yeah, of your edge, what
Mm.
that looks like and or do you think are you thinking in terms of improvement? Like, that sort of like mantra of get better every day,
Mm.
Like, do you
Mhm,
do
mhm.
that or do you have like how would you take that point of view? How do you take that point of view on a daily basis?
Yeah. 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 So I think some of it for sure is improvement. Um, I can't change my past. I can make decisions about how I'm going to behave in the future, and I can try to do things a different way. So yeah. So in that sense, hopefully, yes, I am better today than I was yesterday. There's
Yeah.
some of that, but also hopefully I'm giving myself more grace than I give myself in the past. Um, one of the things that I believe is there's only so much separation that can possibly happen between how I treat myself and how I treat other people, what I think about myself and what I think about other people. So as I struggle with being patient and kind with myself, then I'm probably going to struggle to a degree being patient and kind with other people. So I believe in grace and mercy and redemption. I believe in kindness and hospitality. I believe there's a way to treat people based on, our inherent worth as wonderful, beautiful, children of a loving and graceful God. So I am still imperfect. I'm still going to make mistakes. And so hopefully I'm not beating myself up the way that I used to. Hopefully I'm just accepting like, yeah, I'm human and I'm going to be imperfect until the day that I die. So hopefully it's not just about improvement. And then if I don't improve, well, what does that mean about who I am? Like, oh, I'm this
Hmm.
horrible person. Hopefully it's not that.
So what would you say is your aspiration like
Mm,
for your life in that regard? Because we're kind of getting beyond like material things like oh maybe you want to be a pastor, I want to
right,
maybe we have a bucket list but a sort of deeper aspiration, what would you say?
right. Well, this is probably going to sound corny.
All right, that's good.
So the journey that I've been on, like I really, really do enjoy myself. Like I really like myself. I can look at myself in the mirror now, and not only like not like look away, but I'm just like, man, I love who I am. You know, I have a
All
good
right,
time.
dude. I
Yeah.
feel that. Oh, that's so wonderful. Oh my gosh. That's great. That's
Right.
beautiful.
So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm freed up to not only enjoy life, but to just be a loving person. Like I feel like I have so much love to give. And so now I'm just like looking for things to love and people to love. So yeah, so that's kind of the aspiration is like I really do. I just kind of want to love on people, you know? Like I said, I do it because it sounds corny. It really does. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's not true. Um, yeah, yeah. And part of that too is like I have all this extra energy, not beating myself up so much and not constantly being crushed underneath the weight of my own insecurities. Then I really do have like a lot more energy, to like notice and see other people and be concerned about what they're going through. And, it's yeah, I feel like I'm just freed up.
Yeah. How do you I think so many people I know I identify with that, like the weight of insecurities or the
Mm,
weight of, yeah, it's heavy. So how, like, you wake up in the morning,
mm.
is that effortless for you? Like not having that kind of burden? Or are there things you do?
That, man, I hadn't stopped and thought about that in a while. I mean, I mean, I, I mean, both are kind of true. Um, yes, it does take effort for sure, 100%. I've got, um, like, I got this book here that I really like. I got a couple of, I don't know, like meditation, going for walks, just taking the time to think about, what's going on, what do I need, what season am I in, um,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
nice.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, February's are hard. My mom who passed in 2020, her birthday is Groundhog's Day, and another important person in my life, his birthday is Groundhog's Day. So there's this there's this juxtaposition. On the one hand, I'm like really happy, about my friend, and I want to help my friend celebrate, and also I'm missing my mom's presence in my life. And I did a much better job this year of anticipating the day approaching and just being aware, thinking about it, and just I even communicated, to some of the people that I work with, like, hey, just so you know, I might be a little off this week, and here's why. I don't mind sharing that information with them. In fact, I'd rather them know, like, hey, it's not that I'm mad at you if I get super quiet. Like I'm probably just internally thinking about some things.
Yeah.
And so it's things like that have made such a huge difference. Um, Being aware, giving myself grace, paying attention to what's going on, what season am I in, how are my needs changing and different. But then the effortless part is kind of true as well, because even though I say effort, like it's effort, but it's not toil.
Yeah.
Like it's not like like it's not like this taking this overwhelming amount of energy that I barely possess to just like kind of get through it. I mean, certainly there are some days that are harder than others, but
Yeah.
yeah, for the most part, it's like, oh, well, what do I need? Oh yeah, sure, that makes sense. I need that. All right, cool, done. Yeah,
You talked about, like when we talked earlier, a couple days ago, like feeling this kind of like boundless energy in your life now.
right,
That's like new for you.
right,
Like whereas maybe you used to toil, now
yes,
it's like you just feel like all this energy and you like can't believe your life and all these
right,
different things that you get to do and all these things that
right.
have opened up. I
Yeah.
think, what do you say to someone who's like, um, someone who doesn't have that?
Mm,
Someone whose life, they're in the thick of the toil.
mm,
Everything is darkness. They are
right.
like, and we've all met people like that. We've all been there.
Yes.
What, what do you say to someone like that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm like, well, I was like, well, what do I say to my church?
Yeah.
I think by and large, I just recognizing and admitting that that is real. If someone's currently in that spot where, they are toiling, or there's like a lot of pain and
Yeah.
they just want the pain to stop.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's necessarily something that I feel like I have to fix. Like, I just, yeah, I'll help you name that's true, and just kind of sit there, with you. Um, yeah, because I think sometimes these seasons, sometimes they are what they are. They come and they go. And then sometimes, sure, perhaps maybe they stay longer than maybe they need to, because maybe I aided that season, by not taking care of myself, not going out and getting exercise, not taking care of my mental health, not
Mhm.
whatever. Um, but at the end of the day, I don't think that's really something for somebody else to decide. Like, I'll probably decide that on my own, and like come to a place where I recognize that, oh, okay, you know what, some of my choices have contributed, to this maybe being longer than it needed to be. And then, when I'm ready to move out of that phase, then I'll probably move out of that phase and recognize that, oh, there's all these tools that are around me. So I don't think it's necessarily helpful for me to tell someone else, like, hey, you need to stop hurting now, or it's been long enough, or like whatever. So just acknowledge that if it sucks, it sucks. If it's, a dark period, it's a dark period. If it's a lot of pain, just recognize that and communicate that I care. Um, yeah, and I think, generally speaking, those when people are ready, you know, like, then things will be different.
Yeah. That's so nice. I mean, it just feels so helpful. I mean, honestly, to me, it seems like you're ready to be a pastor.
Well, the other benefit about that approach is that it really doesn't take a whole lot of effort on my part. Like,
Yeah.
like
Oh
I
my
don't need
gosh.
to I don't need to have like this big amount of wisdom. Like, I don't need to
Oh
have the
yes.
answer. I don't need to have the
Uh,
fix. Even if conceptually maybe I know what to do, I don't. That doesn't necessarily mean I have that authority in that person's
right.
life. It
Yeah, for
it, it
real.
doesn't it doesn't like so. So really, that approach is, in a way, it's the easier one. Like, oh, I just let things be what they are. Like, I don't have to change anything.
The easy life.
Right. So,
It's so
yeah.
good. It's really good. Because see, that's not, you know what that's not, is it's not lazy.
Mm,
Quite to the contrary, it's there's a deep there's an intimacy there. There's an
mm,
engagement there. Whereas lazy is a good contrast or a good comparison because I think lazy is almost somewhat removed.
mm.
Laziness doesn't want to engage.
Yes.
Laziness says I'll engage later. Or
Right.
just I don't want to face this pain right now. I don't want to face this
Right.
difficult. I don't even want to try to hold this person who's come to me in front of me with this pain.
Right. Right.
Whereas what you're talking about is quite different, even though it's easy in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like it's close, it's there, it's in the presence of God. It's like
Right.
it's real and here.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I'm glad you pointed that out. Yeah, because it's certainly not like I don't care. Like, I have a friend
Yeah.
who, um, has been going through a rough time. And so, again, with this approach, I'm not trying to fix things, but I told them, I was like, I'm going to make a point to call you, because I'm imagining that if, being in a dark season like you are, it might be hard to actually pick up the phone. Like, sure, I care, and sure, but like when I was in a place that was similar, I was walking my own journey, it was hard to pick up the phone. I would talk myself out of it. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm bothering this friend now because I called him 2 times in a row. I was like, look, not only am I not going to be that, but I'm going to call you. So I would call. It was just not with the purpose to fix. And then, I remember, I sent a song, and the song was, again, not about like fixing, but more about just like friends being, there for each other during some hard times. So, yeah, so it's not like I do nothing, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome. That's so
yeah.
cool. Yeah. I know, like, I know I probably don't do that enough. Other people probably don't too. Like calling friends for help. I think it feels so underrated in a way. It's
Yeah.
like a friend in need is a friend indeed. I mean, it's cliche, but I think it's like, yeah, when you realize that, it's deeply true.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel
Yeah. Yeah.
like, yeah, do you feel like you have like lasting friendships that you can that's a support system for you?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yep. Yep. Yeah. I got, yeah, just off the top of my head, my buddy Dave, who lives in Orlando, my buddy Tim, we went to Liberty together. He's in North Carolina. These are people who I talk with like almost on a daily basis. And yeah, anything that comes up, any of these hard times that I go through, whether it's grief over my mom, or you know struggles at work, or excitements about playing music. They know exactly what's going on, and it's very comfortable. Yeah, none of us feel like we have to have all of our crap together, all the time. Like, we get to be human.
I think what's really striking is how you like being with you really you feel like a source of strength,
Hmm.
but not a source of strength in terms of, I don't know, like brute strength, but like it's so paradoxical, but there's so much strength that comes out of like being willing to call someone and be open about your difficulty and being vulnerable. And it's so curious. And then it makes, like, I know you talked about like your current job and then church work and all these things, and it really
Right.
feels like people are very comfortable with you.
Yes.
And they know, they just know. It doesn't even take long to realize, like, Jeremiah
Mm.
is someone that I could, tears can be rolling down my face and I could go to Jeremiah, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
like, I don't know if there's a better gift that you can give to somebody else.
And I don't know if there's a better gift, like, for me. Like, it's like I just love people, and I enjoy people. I enjoy spending time with people. And I enjoy being able to talk about whatever. We can have these super heady theological conversations. We
Yes.
could talk about sports for hours. We could also talk about grief, and separation and loss and fear of death, right? So I love that. So this idea that other people, for whatever reasons, feel comfortable around me, to talk and like share those things, I'm like, how cool is that? Like, that works out for me so well. It's so great. Like,
Man, that's awesome.
yeah, 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 and it works in tandem with you know spirituality as a profession. Um, Anytime somebody learns that I'm in seminary, learns that I'm training to be a pastor or a preacher, um, there's an association that goes on in their head, like whatever their ideas about religion and organized religion, that pops up. Oftentimes, some of those core associations are positive, but not always. Sometimes they're negative. But either way, like I get to often engage in conversations with people. So I remember one dude. He, I just met him, and I'm like hanging out with, all these like hippie people, and I think there might have been like a Grateful Dead cover band, and like, I mean, just having a good time, kick back, relax. Well, my friends introduced me, and then sometimes they're like, oh yeah, he's a pastor. Well, this particular dude grew up in going to Catholic school and did not have a good experience, and said as much. And I would just look at him, I'd be like, yep. And then he'd say something else negative about like organized religion or something, and I'd be like, yep. Right? And like after like the fifth thing that I agreed on, right? Like it was just, Mike just knew. It was like, oh yeah, no, I can talk to this guy. And we did, like, so yeah, so it really does. It works out for me. I love that, people, trust me, so often, so many times I've heard like, I don't really tell people this, and then something is shared, and I feel very honored that you would trust me with that. So whatever all goes into that, like, I don't know, man, but I'm grateful for it. Again, I feel very honored. I treasure it, and I try to honor that, with my response, both on a compassion, level, and, on a level where it's like, yeah, I'm going to keep your confidence and, not blab this around, So it works out for me.
Yeah. What that makes me think of, and then maybe this will be our last topic to end in a reasonable, this has been good. You brought up in that panel last week, like the question that you asked. So you asked a question about ethics, and you said that, I'm not going to get your words exactly, but basically how there are a lot of, on one hand, you can have a conversation about religion or spirituality that's very fruitful. And it's really engaging, and people are like, you're really getting somewhere, and it's just interesting.
Lighthearted,
Yeah. And then you said the other kind is a contentious conversation, one of conflict, where people are disagreeing fundamentally. If they're both religious, disagreeing on religion. If one's non-religious, they have complaints, valid ones, against religion.
Right. Yep.
And what you said was, so often, if not all the time, that boils down, those disagreements boil down to ethics. They say, if I disagree with something in your religion, it has to do with the fact often that I think that belief isn't just untrue. I think that belief leads to strife or violence or hatred, whatever it is.
Right.
So I guess first question is, I know you mentioned there, you felt like there almost isn't so many ethics courses, but have you done like your own research or taken ethics courses that you feel like have developed some of that understanding in you? But then the second question would be, what would be your ethical philosophy or something to that effect?
Yes. Oh my goodness. So I could talk about this for a while. So yeah, let me jump in. So the first observation kind of stems from a lot of these experiences that I have. So for example, I work at I do security on the weekends at a lesbian bar down in the city, down at Jolene's. And so once again, people have learned, I'm training to be a pastor. And so sometimes that's kind of how I'm introduced. Subsequent to that, I get to have these conversations with people. What I have noticed is that many of those conversations are very lighthearted. But I think in part because those conversations are taking place in more of a, let's call it like a pastoral context. So for example, maybe it's, hey, when I get married, would you do the ceremony? absolutely, I'd be honored to do the ceremony. We could sit down and talk about what kind of ceremony that you would like. It could be very religious. It could be not very religious. I just hope that, I would want to do something that's meaningful to you. So still, people can have lots of strong opinions about it, but it's not really being contentious. Similar to somebody wants to do a memorial service or a hospital visit. Yeah, not very contentious. However, when it comes to human behavior, what we don't want to do, when we talk about orthodoxy, what's in and what's out, what's crazy, what's fringe, well, of course, we don't want dangerous and destructive behavior to be within orthodoxy. No, we want to have that ability to say, oh, yeah, no, like misleading people, to go and join your group and then having them drink Kool-Aid that will kill them and not even tell them. Like, we want to be able to push the BS button and say, no, that's not okay. And essentially, yeah, that's what we're doing, is we're recognizing that, well, there might be a way of thinking that's connected to this bad behavior, right?
Right.
If I think that a certain people group are inferior, women, minorities, people who speak a certain language, people who watch a certain news channel, like whatever, if I think that those people are inferior, well, it's probably not going to be too surprising if I actually treat them in ways that reflect that I think that they're inferior.
Yeah.
So we want to keep that. But then I think for me, one of the things that we really don't focus on, and I didn't say this the other day, is really like, what happens when we do screw up? Because that's an ethical question as well. Once we decide that, okay, this is not good, well, truth be told, many of us do things that we've decided are not good. Many of us, have lied at some point or cheated at some point or, been violent at some point, many of us.
Yep.
But then the question is, so what do we do? We've already decided it's not good, but what do we do? And I think we struggle with that as a society. What is it? What is the penance that we think is okay? What is the penance that once it's served, I am going to welcome you back into society in my good graces? That's some heavy lifting right there. But to me, it's imperative that we start to figure that out if we really want society to be better. It's not deciding what's right or wrong. Like, okay, that's a step in the process. Deciding what to do when people do the thing that's wrong. Until we figure that out, we're going to continue to walk around not knowing. Like, I'm not going to be sure of myself, sure that, okay, I can be welcomed back into society. I'm not going to be sure of that. It's going to be a crapshoot. I'm going to feel very insecure. And, I think there's some things that happen when people don't really feel like they're part of the group, when they don't really feel like there's a way to get back into the group in the good graces. I don't think that necessarily leads to better behavior.
So I guess the last question off that would be, like, where do you see yourself, say, you become head pastor of a church. What actions do you take to ensure that I guess that doesn't happen?
Right. Well, I think one of the primary things anyway is like how I show up. So like when I preach sermons, it's so often I'm telling stories from my life. Like, people know me as a storyteller. I'm very invested in storytelling. I believe in its power to help people connect. Of the stories that I tell, Many of them are about something that I screwed up, some mistake that I made. And then I can talk about the lesson that I learned, from that mistake. But part of the reason why I do that is because, once again, I'm like, look, I don't want to project this idea that I am, holier than X. I am just like anybody else. I still have my insecurities. I still make mistakes. Sometimes I'm slow to forgive other people and forgive myself. These things are never going to go away. But I think it's important to not just have that as a concept, but to like really remind people like, no, I did this. This was something that I did. This is something that I thought. Now, yes, I may be trying to move away from those things. I just don't want to have this idea that, oh, Jeremiah would never. Oh, Jeremiah, well, like, well, Jeremiah would only make certain mistakes. Like, listen, you would feel some kind of way, as did a lot of the people who I've hurt, like, I just think that's very important to just keep framing that and keep putting that up there, that like I'm human. And then I think it'll help people understand where I'm coming from. Like if I'm offering and extending grace, if I'm saying, hey, look, I get it, then you really know, like, no, Jeremiah does get it. Like part of the reason why Jeremiah is extending this grace is because grace has been extended to Jeremiah, and he appreciated that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
That's really powerful ministry.
Mm.
It is, it really is. And I think, yeah, you're gonna have a great church.
Brian, thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
you will.
I get a lot of positive feedback, which is so encouraging. I really, really, really do. I look at it's like, of some of my most embarrassing mistakes in my life, I can see that there were people there, like, oh, it's like, oh, well, I just now learned this lesson. I was like, well, shoot, my mom wishes I would have learned that lesson 12 years ago. And my brother wishes I would have learned, you know what I mean? Like there were people there telling me the whole time, for different reasons. I wasn't ready to either receive it or deal, with all the things that I needed to deal with in order to make a change. And yeah, now that's all I'm doing, is I'm just trying to extend that. I'm like, look, someone might be in a different place in their journey. I believe that they are still worthy of being loved. It's not about, it's like, oh, once you get your act together, now you're worthy of love. No, I don't think that's the way it's supposed to work. So that's all that I'm trying to do. And so I just, as imperfect as my efforts are in that, I don't think it really matters. I just think, you just try, and then it's like, oh my gosh, other people appreciate it. It's like, yeah, well, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for being you. Yeah. Thanks for what you're doing. I think it's really, it's inspiring. It is.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I have a good time. Like,
after this conversation, I already feel more comfortable in my own skin.
Sweet.
Yeah. So, mission accomplished.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I just think people are great. I think people are wonderful. They're fascinating. I enjoy getting to know them and know their stories. And it's like, I found that the more grace and mercy and all, just not treating people harshly, is like, well, then I really get to know people even more. So it's like, it ends up being a gift back to me, like I've got all these wonderful people that I know that are amazing. And how did our relationship get there? Like, I think it's by not being an a-hole.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's some wisdom right there. That's great. Look at look at our successful relationships, our successful and healthy ones. So why are they so healthy?
Mm.
How are they in that position? And yeah, that's wonderful. We can learn a
Yeah.
lot from that.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
You know I will.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
All
do
right.
the same.
Peace out. Peace out. Thank you.
All right, later.
Laters.